into Remote Control's latest episode. Listen in as the GCRN crew talks TV from 2000 to now, with pilot and season premiere episodes, finishing finales, and season passes as well. Now get ready to change the channel with your remote control as we bring you the latest and greatest in the world of television. All from the Geekcast Radio Network. We are all remote controlled.
Not fast enough. Hell's Kitchen needs to die before it can be reborn.
They must have people watching me.
My experience, there are no heroes, no villains, just people with different agendas.
Lawyer by day, vigilante by night.
I'm just trying to make my city a better place.
Grab that remote control because the GCRN's brand new TV podcast is here. We are calling it Remote Control. I am your host, TFG1Mike. Joining me for the first time on this podcast is Joe Reed. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And this, folks, is going to be a season pass episode. What we do, for those that don't know, or for Joe that might not know, we talk about an entire television show one season at a time. So we talk about everything. We spoil everything. So there's your spoiler warning, folks. And this time around for the season pass episode, we are going to be talking about Netflix's Marvel's Daredevil, or if you really want to put a real long name on it, Walt Disney's Marvel's Netflix's Daredevil.
Produced by ABC.
Yeah. Produced by ABC, distributed by Buena Vista, in association with Touchstone Pictures. Oh my god. But yeah, Marvel's Daredevil. Wanted to bring Joe in on this one, because you had expressed interest in the series and intrigue in it. And before we get started, just briefly, since this is a TV podcast, not a movie podcast, but we have to kind of talk about the movie and the comics just a little bit here in the beginning.
Yep.
12 years ago.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, huh? 12 years ago, and the only reason why I know this, and I think I told this story on another podcast, February 14th, 2003, they released Ben Affleck's Daredevil to theaters. They released Daredevil on Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
I just don't... I remember even back then I was like, what the hell are they thinking? The crazy thing was I had flown up to Massachusetts, back home to Massachusetts, because for most people that may not know this, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been here for the past 20 some odd years. Anyway, I flew home to Massachusetts because my oldest cousin, Rachel, my Uncle Robert's daughter, was getting married on that Saturday, the 15th. So I wanted to go see this movie, but my mom didn't want to have... Well, my mom wasn't there, I don't think. Yeah, she wasn't there. She was still here in Kentucky, I think, at the time. I don't remember, honestly, where mom was at the time. But somehow it ended up where on Valentine's Day I went with Rachel, my cousin Rachel, her husband Joe, and I went to go see Daredevil. And in Kingston, Massachusetts, we have this mall, Kingston Independence Mall, or what, I don't even know what it's called now. That's what it used to be called when I was a kid. And it's got the movie theater in there, but it's a mall, so they've got, mall stores. As soon as I saw the bar scene, and I heard what I thought I heard, which was Nickelback's Learn the Hard Way, played in a really, really slow reverb for the bar fight scene. As soon as the movie was over, before the mall closed, I ran into Record Town and bought the soundtrack album for this film.
You should be ashamed.
No.
You show shame on you.
See, I like the movie. Both the theatrical cut and the director's cut. The director's cut makes it a better story. It fills in a lot of the gaps that the theatrical cut has, but I still enjoy both versions of the film.
I don't hate that movie. My kind of intro to this is like, oh, hey, it's a superhero movie. All right. Mm-hmm. And I wandered into the comic store to kind of get the primer, and I found I think it had like 3 issues in it, 41, 42, and 43 of Bendis and Maleev's Daredevil. And that was my first Daredevil comic, and from that moment on, I've been a reader of Daredevil, just buying that to prepare for the movie. And, having read that and getting some Frank Miller experience in Daredevil and knowing that stuff, recognizing the cameo that he had in the movie, I kind of enjoyed it. I think the only thing that I hate about the movie is that ridiculous scene in the park where Elektra's fighting Matt Murdock with his blind stick on the seesaw. Like, aren't you drawing a lot of attention to yourself and maybe giving away the fact that you have slightly more you're not blind, Matt. You have there's something special about you if you can do this. That scene, when I knew the director's cut was coming out, I was like, all right, sweet, it's going to be even better. When they didn't cut that scene, I was like, come on. If you got rid of that scene, I think it would be a pretty decent movie.
They didn't cut that scene, but they cut everything out. The love story is not in the director's cut at all, which I know a lot of people didn't really care for the love story. So, we haven't had a lot of Daredevil stuff in other media other than comics since then. And, 2015, it was sometime last year in 2014, it was kind of announced that, hey, Netflix and Marvel was shopping around 5 shows that they wanted, if you wanted one, they wanted you to pick up all 5. I believe that's how it was. I'm not looking at any info, folks. So if I'm wrong in saying that they wanted a network to pick up all 5 in order to
call Mike out in the comments, tell him he's wrong.
Yeah, please. Yes, exactly. And Netflix, was the only one. No one wanted to, which surprises me that no one wanted to deal with Marvel and Disney and all this and all that. And, you said that, oh, hey, produced by ABC. You'd think that ABC would jump on that train since they have Agents of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, coming off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think if Marvel said to anybody, we want to make a television show, they're going to think of that campy soap opera wannabe. And I love Agent Coulson. I love the character and I love the actor, but that show is just at best it's weak.
So Netflix was the one to pony up everything, and they've picked up these 5 shows, and one of the shows was Daredevil, and it was kind of a reimagining for the character a little bit, kind of to reintroduce him to everybody, and I didn't even know who was going to play Daredevil when I first started hearing
Charlie Cox, who is what I heard.
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing with Brandon Routh. Who the hell?
Yeah.
It's like Superman. No, he's better as Ray Palmer. Anyway,
I'm not there yet. I got to get there.
Oh boy. It's one of those things where the only thing that I was concerned about with this show was who they were going to cast as Kingpin. Or Wilson Fisk, or because he's not called Kingpin just yet, but everybody calls him Kingpin because we know. It's just a knowing thing. And I grew up with, the whole thing of Spider-Man the Animated Series in 94. Kingpin was this giant behemoth of a white guy, and he had a little bit of an origin story in that cartoon series, and that's really all I knew of him until the Ben Affleck film, and you had Michael Clark Duncan as Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. And right then I said, okay, I can't see sure, I have my enjoyment of the Kingpin in the Spider-Man cartoon, but in the live action, I can't see anybody else other than Michael Clark Duncan playing the Kingpin. And sadly, he passed away. And now that they announced and all this and all that, and now that Vincent D'Onofrio is the Kingpin, I'm like, oh my god, Detective Gorin from Criminal Intent? That's amazing. And if you really want to get even geekier, he was Thor in Adventures in Babysitting. And it's like, oh my, I can't, after watching 10 seasons of Law & Order Criminal Intent and watching the characterization of Robert Gorin and D'Onofrio playing him, I can't think of anybody else that is more suited to play the Kingpin.
I've never seen an episode of that. The only association that I have for it, well, two associations, is of course Full Metal Jacket, and then I need sugar in water. Yeah. It's the only association I have is Men in Black and that from him. But oh my God, I don't know. Well, I guess now is as good a time to go into it as any. His portrayal of Wilson Fisk is amazing, multi-layered, complex. Even the way that he speaks, holds his face, the way that he talks to people, the way that he moves, the way that he fights. And here we go, massive spoilers, and that's the last time you'll get warned now.
Well, really quick before we get into that, just to let everybody know, if you don't already know, obviously the show, to set the stage here, the show debuted in 2015. It's on Netflix. It's roughly a 1 hour show. I've seen most of the episode times at like 52, 56 minutes, something like that. Seasons 1 to God knows how many. I know that there's going to be a season 2 and there's 13 overall episodes. With the casting, we talked a little bit about Charlie Cox. It always surprises me when British actors come on the scene and their characters obviously sound American, but when you watch interviews with them, they're obviously going to be using,
like
you know
Hugh Laurie.
Yeah, don't even get me started on Dr. House. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, I like Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock and as Daredevil. I like he's kind of cocky a lot of the time in the first season. I like him in the character. I think he fits the role well. What were your first impressions of him when you first saw the show?
Well, because I didn't know who he was, I was completely lost in the fact that he's Matt Murdock. And reading the comic as long as I have, I guess 12 years, you said? That was when the character has changed quite a bit. He's gone through a real dark period, and now with the Mark Waid run, he's really kind of brightening up. He's come out of his hard times, and even through that you can kind of read the depression still happening. He's wearing the mask on the surface, but we're coming into this Daredevil story when his life is going to get a whole lot worse. We're seeing him motivated, we're seeing him ready to go, but still kind of carrying a lot of dark weight, and so he embodies that really well, and it came right into it. So I didn't have any preconceptions about who he was as an actor or what other roles he's done. I was like, no, this guy is Matt Murdock coming into his prime here, or heading toward his prime.
At least by the end of the series. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. Deborah Ann Wall is Karen Page. I like her. I don't remember seeing Karen Page ever on screen in anything. I know obviously she wasn't in the Ben Affleck movie, but I've read several Daredevil stories with her in it, and I think Deborah Ann Wall does a really good job of portraying Karen.
Her and Foggy, when the show happened and they had casting and I saw pictures of them walking around the street or whatever, I was fully prepared to dislike these two characters because as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, every minute that they're on screen is a minute I'm not getting Daredevil in his suit kicking the snot out of criminals. But what both her and Karen and Foggy did, they and the actors, what's Foggy's actor name? Thanks.
Eldon Henson.
He was one of the Mighty Ducks villains.
No, he wasn't a villain. He was the original Bash brother, Fulton Reed.
Thank you.
It took me so long, and somebody else to post about. Yeah. I was like that the whole time I was watching the first 6 out of the 13 episodes. I'm like, where have I seen? I've seen this guy before. Where have I seen? And then somebody posted on Facebook that moment when you realize that Foggy Nelson is Fulton Reed from the Mighty Ducks, and I'm just waiting for Foggy to pick up a hockey stick now.
I hope he does at some point, just to kind of nod. But those two actors made me fall in love with those characters, and there are moments where I'm looking at this, man, I just want the Karen and Foggy show. I want to see them go and take slumlords to court and watch them, like Law and Order, Foggy and Karen. I want to see that show now.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I didn't recognize him is because, number one, his hair is a hell of a lot lighter in this show. Second of all, he looks like he's lost since Mighty Ducks, and Mighty Ducks was God knows how many years, it's what, 25 years ago or something like that. Since Mighty Ducks, I haven't seen him in anything else, and he looks like he's lost a lot of weight compared to what he looks like in Mighty Ducks.
That's impressive. The dude doesn't look older than 25 on this show.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's one of the reasons why I never recognized him. And Eldon Henson's Foggy, I'm sorry to say, and people might agree with this, you might agree with this, is so much better than Favreau.
Yeah, I like Jon Favreau, but...
I like him, but... Like, I remember when Iron Man was announced, I'm like, wait, Foggy Nelson is directing Iron Man? What the hell?
Yeah, that was my only introduction of Jon Favreau, was knowing him through Foggy. But, in the comics, Foggy's not the character that I'm there to read about. He happens, things happen to him, but... No, the TV show made me really love a lot of these background characters through the writing and definitely through the acting and the characterization. I really love these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You got Toby Leonard Moore as James Wesley. You've got...
Mofo.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't sure who he was supposed to be.
I don't recognize him from the comics yet, but I'm going to go back through and read it.
I mean, Wesley, it's supposedly supposed to be a take on Wesley Owen Welsh, as far as I can tell. Kingpin's right-hand man. And that's fine if they want, but like the whole time, the first, I think, 3 or 4 episodes until Kingpin eventually says his name, I didn't know who the character was supposed to be. I didn't realize. I mean, I knew he was the Kingpin's right-hand man in the show, but I didn't realize it was that right-hand. Like, it didn't connect with me. You got Vondi Curtis Hall as Ben Urich.
That was a surprise, and I don't know. It's whatever, they changed the race of a character again. Why do they do that? But 3 seconds on screen, you're like, nope, that's Ben Urich, and he's awesome, and I love him, and I want to watch the Ben Urich show.
Too bad. Well,
yeah.
I guess you can watch the zombie Ben Urich show.
I guess he ain't showing up in Spider-Man.
I gotta say though, that was another really cool thing about the 2003 film. I love Joey Pants as Ben Urich.
Yeah, me too. That was perfect casting. That was better casting than Ben Affleck.
True. One of the other big ones here, kind of the last one we'll talk about. We already kind of talked about Vincent D'Onofrio, but you got Rosario Dawson as Claire Temple. I thought that was an interesting casting choice.
Again, I don't know her from the comic yet. I need to go back and reread it. I'm setting up to do that, but yeah. And the only thing I know Rosario Dawson from is from Clerks 2, so that's all the baggage that I come. But she did a good job. I did not dislike her at all.
Yeah. According to Wikipedia, and again, take it with a grain of salt, Claire Temple is the ex-wife of Bill Foster and a romantic interest of Luke Cage. In her earliest portrayals, she was a nurse for Dr. Noah Burstein in his 42nd Street storefront clinic. Claire encountered an injured Luke Cage, and the two soon became romantically involved.
Oh, she'll be back in the next series. She'll be back in Luke Cage. I bet she will. That's what you need to tie everything together.
Yep. Vincent D'Onofrio, what more can we say about him? We've kind of already talked about him. Some of the recurring roles, some of the guest stars were really, really interesting. Let's see here.
My favorite surprise that I didn't know until I watched it was, and I don't know the actor's name, but the warden from Shawshank Redemption as Leland Owlsley.
Mm-hmm.
That was real cool. I'm hoping that the son that he kept talking about is a junior, and that we'll get to see Leland Owlsley come back in, the green suit that maybe he can fly, or maybe I want to see a little more comic booky portrayal of Owlsley.
Yeah, I wish Stan's appearance was not just through an on-set photo. Like, I wish it was actually.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, because that was another cool thing about the movie, the 2003 film. they work the story in a way where Stan Lee is the old man that Matt saves from being
Yeah.
It's just like, if anyone could take every single appearance of Stan Lee in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even going back to X-Men, I would love to watch the Stan Lee appearance movie just to see how people put those in order. Oh, it's so funny. All right, to jump or not to jump the shark. What did you think of the opening credit? I mean, they're opening credits, but what did you think of the opening titles and all that stuff for the show?
That was beautiful. Usually I would fast forward through that, the second time that I see it, but no, I love that. It's just the syrup pouring down on the entire city of New York, goopy gloppy, but the city's invisible until the goop hits it. I cannot say amazing enough things for that because it's just stellar. The music's good. I like the music sounds like you're listening to it underwater, so you're aware of your hearing during the opening titles too, which I think is a very clever decision.
Absolutely. I like the opening title sequence. After about the 6th episode, I kind of got tired of it, though. I just got tired of hearing the music. And I'm happy that, because this is a Netflix show and this isn't a show that's on television, on actual television, that they didn't just do an intro. And don't get me wrong, I love the intro to The Flash and sometimes the intro to Arrow, but I'm glad they didn't do "My name is," and I'm all that. Like, I'm glad they didn't do that. I think what's really the coolest thing for me on the title sequence is when Daredevil and the name, when the character and the name show up in the goop. I thought that was really clever because it's showing that the show is molding the character. That's why we see him as quote unquote Daredevil, the guy in the black mask. But we don't actually see the true face of the devil until the very last episode, which I absolutely loved.
That was something that I thought I was going to hate as well. Like, I thought, okay, we'll see him in the black suit for the first episode 2 or 3, and then he'll get the costume, then he'll get the outfit. But after watching it no, I really don't mind that he's not in the suit. And he could be not in the suit for 2 more seasons, and this show would still be amazing, and he'd still be Daredevil. But I'm glad that that's there and that it'll be coming for next season.
The funny thing is, now that I think about it, back on the title sequence really quick, then we'll move on, is now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of reminds me of what if they tinted the T-1000's metal red? It kind of reminds me of liquid metal from Terminator 2. But the show itself, I thought I was going to have a hard time watching it. I really did. As it progressed, I think my only real complaint is that to us, the audience, and I know they wanted to show Wilson Fisk's story. I think having, like, I think only his voice was in the first episode. I think they kind of showed him in shadow in the second episode. By the third episode, boom, there he is in the art gallery. And I'm like, wait, no, this is too early to show the audience. Keep the mystery a little bit more. But after watching the whole thing, I understand why they did that when it was done.
Yep.
And I still love it.
It was part of his story. And with the Wilson Fisk character, what I was going into earlier is, and what D'Onofrio did so well is, okay, this is a kid who had this incredibly traumatic thing happen to him when he was a child. And we snap to Wilson Fisk as an adult, but he's still a child. And you can hear in how he demands things, how short his temper is, and even his body physics when he's fighting, that he's still a child. And you can see it in his face when he's angry, that he doesn't have that emotional control that an adult would. I would love to hear D'Onofrio talk about playing the character, because, man, there was some psychology stuff going on to help him inhabit that role. I just blown away and impressed.
Yeah, I was too. I I just think that it just fits the role like a glove. There's no one else that they could have gotten to do this, and I believe he even, I believe he gained weight for this one.
He's pretty hefty, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the very few actors in Hollywood that I know of that you often hear stories of them gaining or losing weight for roles. I'm sure it happens more often than I'm, alluding to here, but it's not very often that a story is, that a news story is, hey, this person gained 70 pounds, or this person lost 100 pounds to play this role, to get into this role. But yeah, I would love to hear some more in-depth interview stuff with D'Onofrio. I've seen clips of him talking about the show, like a kind of a press junket kind of thing.
Yeah, and I read the Reddit AMA, but it was before the show had launched, so nobody could ask him. What was that? That was crazy, man.
Yeah. What do you think of all the fight choreography in this one?
Okay, the fight scene at the end of episode 2 is the most brilliant piece of film that I have seen in a very long time. That single cut, if you at home haven't seen this yet, or if you didn't notice it, go watch that right now. Pause the podcast, go watch at the end of episode 2. From the moment that Matt Murdock walks around the corner in that hallway, it is a single cut until he walks out of the opposite door with the kid. That entire fight was one cut. And it's incredible. I'm trying to think of the movie that they said that they kind of were inspired by to do that, and it's not coming to me, but there's another very long fight scene that was a single cut. But there are moments in that where the fight goes into a door and then the camera kind of pans around, and it's a moment where they could have cut. They put 2 of those moments in there where they could have cut, but they have since come out and said that they were there in case they had to, but they didn't have to. It was all one piece of film. At one point, Charlie Cox would fight, and then go into the door, and he'd be off camera. And when Daredevil reappears, it's the stunt double, fight, falls back in the other room. But all in all, it's one cut. And by the time he's done and he's boxed the guy, the stunt guys are tired. Charlie Cox is tired. He's like just using the wall to help himself stand up to get these last moves in. He looks exhausted, and you buy it because it's real. One of the best pieces of film. And there are several other instances where there's a one single cut. One of them involved a moving car in a later episode where the blind Asian guys in the back seat singing and the 2 Russian guys in front yell at him. That car is driving down the road, and that camera there, that doesn't cut for 5 to 8 minutes there too, and that was kind of neat.
Yep, absolutely. I love everything that they've done with this. The fights look amazing. That hallway fight.
Oh, I gotta go watch it again.
I love how he uses but also doesn't use the door. He uses because the door when the door falls over, it's like it's kind of like a seesaw, like you're standing on the lower end of a seesaw, and it looks so cool. And he doesn't even I figured he would use the door in some other way, like pick it up or do something with it, but he doesn't. He just uses it as kind of like a springboard. I absolutely love that. As the series goes on, what I love about it is how basically Foggy, and Karen, for lack of a better term, are the 3 amigos at this point, as the series continues. And they each have their own character arcs.
Well, yeah.
Which is rare in television because, yes, I know characters have character arcs, but in a series like this, if this was on TV, Karen's arc wouldn't be as deep as it is. Foggy's arc, even though Foggy's arc ties into Matt's arc, wouldn't be as deep as it is. I love episode 10, Nelson v. Murdock.
That was, my wife and I just finished that last night, I think.
You mean rewatched it, right?
Well, I've watched it. Jenny,
Okay.
I'm watching it
Okay.
again with her. And, man,
Okay.
watching it again, I'm seeing all these little breadcrumbs that they drop. Like, oh, that's important. Like, how many times did they show Wilson Fisk's cufflinks before you know what the cufflinks mean?
Mm-hmm. You know, I love all the character development. 13 episodes is a lot of time, but it is also a short amount of time to get, let's say, you know, technically four main characters, because you got Foggy, Karen, Matt, and Fisk.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of time, but also not a lot of time to get their character arcs flushed out, and it really does well. I love seeing just the edges of Karen's past. They don't just come right out and say it. But we, you know, for anyone who has read a Daredevil comic in the past, we know that she used to be in a pretty bad place for a lot of her life. And I can't wait to see if Season 2 delves more into that in flashbacks or whatever. Seeing Matt and Foggy at college, that was hilarious. It was hilarious. It really was. Absolutely love that. I think I wish I could use this title somewhere for something. Episode 8, Shadows in the Glass. Oh my god, that is such a perfect title for Wilson Fisk in this show. That whole episode is basically showing you his origin.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a lot of people, I remember my buddy Doug Abel over at Talking About My Generation, he said, "Oh my god, the mother was the dark one." I was like, yeah, she kind of, like, I didn't expect that.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that she was the dark one as much as she needed to do what she needed to do to protect Wilson. I think that was more maternal than psychotic.
I don't mean dark.
I
don't really mean psychotic. I mean, like, you know, in this whole episode, we see the flashback of the father being the violent one, the verbally abusive one. You see the mother trying to. You just assume that she is the protective mother that's going to try to shield her son from his father. And then after he kills him, she's like, "Get the saw." And I'm like, wait, because it was so shocking, because it's one of those things where her whole demeanor changed in a split second, in an eighth of a second. Her whole face changed from sunny, Wisteria Lane wife to, Stepford wife, and it's like, oh my god. But Wilson Fisk in episode 8, he is shown to be, and I guess he prefers it this way, but he is shown to be a very lonely guy. Mm-hmm. He, basically gets up, gets dressed, looks in the mirror, gets the cufflinks, makes the same breakfast every morning. And I was wondering how that was going to change as it goes along. And I think after he meets Vanessa, which I absolutely love that they're setting this up, that we're seeing, because normally when I see Wilson Fisk and Vanessa, they're already married, they've got children, there's not a lot of character depth to her in general. And this is me not knowing a lot about her in the comics. I just know what I've seen in cartoons and stuff when she has appeared. So it's one of those things where seeing it here is so refreshing. And seeing her character portrayed in a way where all the stuff that he's done doesn't matter to her. Any other woman would have walked away.
It surprises me that I can read the comic for as long as I have and not know that Vanessa was a character until I reread one issue just because I needed to know which trade paperback I needed to buy to complete the set, and like, oh my gosh, they're mentioning Vanessa. She's from the comic. I had no idea. So I was kind of happy and glad to now go back and reread everything and see what else I more than likely missed.
Yeah. And, I really got this whole, and this is going to sound bad, but Have you seen the 1999 Pierce Brosnan, Rene Russo remake of the Thomas Crown Affair?
I did so long ago that it doesn't matter, and I haven't.
Okay, well, the only thing I'm going to mention is that this whole thing with Wilson and Vanessa kind of reminds me of that movie, and the fact that, Russo's character at the end of it didn't really care what Crown's character had or hadn't done. And I'm like, oh wow, that's interesting that they're going in that direction as far as as long as he's honest with her, she isn't going to make any fuss about anything that he's done. And this, after, I forget which episode it is, but after the one episode where he basically decapitates the Russian with the car door, that scene right there is proof positive this show would have never been on network television.
I look at a show like S.H.I.E.L.D. and imagine whatever number its budget is, and then I look at Daredevil and see how much lower its budget is, and like, why can't S.H.I.E.L.D. be more like Daredevil? and how Daredevil could have been like S.H.I.E.L.D. It could have been. Now I like Arrow. It has its soap opera moments that I don't like, but I like, and I like Flash, but man, boy, is Daredevil just a different caliber of show.
It is very much so. And
is it lighting? Well, yeah. Daredevil's much darker, more sophisticated. It's not like a flat spotlight from the front. Is it more serious? Well, yeah, but that doesn't make it good. It just happened to be good and be serious. There's something magical going on about the chemistry that went into the making of Daredevil that is special, unique, and exquisite.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to sit here and compare this to Flash and Arrow and all that stuff, because I personally love Flash. Arrow, this is discussions for another day, but I'm kind of losing it on Arrow because it's kind of like he's Bataro than anything else at this point. I hate to say it like that, listeners, but it's true. If you watch
that's another show.
Yeah. But with Daredevil, everything they've done to this point, I don't even know where they're gonna go for season 2, folks.
Oh, they could go anywhere. This could be, they could go the Brubaker way, and Daredevil locks himself or gets into jail so that he can track down Wilson Fisk inside. What else? I think we're gonna get Elektra. I think we're gonna get Bullseye. Man. Yeah, I have a feeling. Well, the long-term plan, if we didn't mention it earlier, there are the 4 shows. We're 5, right? Daredevil. We're gonna have AKA Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. And after the 4 shows debut, they're gonna put them together and form the Defenders, which is the 4 of them. I have a theory. Not knowing anything about the Defenders when this was announced, I went and dug up some information. Apparently, one of the key members of the Defenders since the beginning has been Stephen Strange. And I wonder if we're going to see Benedict Cumberbatch's Stephen Strange introduced in this series. In this, I don't know, not series, set, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, the Marvel TV universe, yeah. I don't know.
I know he's getting his own movie, but man, would it be neat as an after-credits cameo. I'm not saying he'll be a member of the Defenders on the TV show, but it would be nice if they threw that homage there. Because I couldn't find an image of the Defenders comic without Stephen Strange on the cover.
Yeah. As the show came to its conclusion and we got the fight and everything else, episodes 11 to 13 are so well done. Like, I didn't realize, like, episode 13, it is just under an hour, but it feels like you're watching it for 2 hours. There's so much in they put so much into that 1 hour of television. I don't think they could have put anything else in there.
That's something that I noticed about the entire run of Daredevil is how long they're willing to spend on scenes. There is so much dialogue. They let things linger. You're there for a 5-10 minute scene. Not just the fight scenes, but even the dialogue things where they're just in the law office. And I think that's refreshing. I think you watch it and it's obvious that the showrunners are not treating you like a short attention span idiot. They're letting you learn about these characters. I would love to count the number of cuts, the number of scene changes in an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and compare it to the number of cuts in an episode of Daredevil, and I bet it's, maybe 200 cuts in Daredevil, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would be something like an MTV music video, just thousands of cuts.
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know.
The show does not treat you like an idiot.
No,
and
not at all.
I'm so tired of, and I didn't realize how tired of it I was. I want to be treated with, like I'm an adult.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this show really does that. This show really takes almost, they fit about as much as they could into the mythology. I like the origin story for Daredevil, for Matt Murdock. I like
Stick episode.
I like the Stick episode. It didn't hit me as much as it hit a bunch of other people because I have not read Daredevil comics at all in a long, I don't even remember the last. I think the last Daredevil comic I might have read was, the last one I read was, I hate to say this, but it's true because I'm tired of that damn villain, that crappy Kevin Smith book. I'm sorry. The only reason why I say it's a crappy Kevin Smith book is because it's fucking Mysterio is the goddamn. I hate Mysterio when they throw him into just being the villain of the book. But it was Kevin Smith's Guardian Devil. That's what it was. Where was I going with that? I don't remember. Oh crap.
Well, he's a Spider-Man villain. It's unlikely he'll ever show up in the TV show.
Yeah, thank God for that. So I the whole, that's where I was going. The whole thing was Stick. I didn't, Stick didn't affect me either way. I think it's a cool character, but I didn't have any emotional attachment to, it would have been different if John, I hate to say it, if John Favreau showed up, but he wouldn't have shown up, thank God. But it's one of those things where I like seeing that part of Matt's story, just as I like seeing the part about, right after his accident and his dad and whatever else. I will say that I think the movie pulled off Matt's reaction to his blindness a little bit better. When he's a kid, right after it happens.
In the hospital
the whole
bed
thing
and everything's
with
overwhelming.
Yeah, I think the movie pulled that off a little bit better. But I do really love the interaction between Matt and his dad in the show just a little bit more than the movie, because the movie, let's face it, Jack doesn't last too long. But within flashbacks and telling a story the way they're telling it in this series, I'm kind of liking, Jack the Devil Murdock after a while.
Well, he was the Devil Murdock in the movie, but he was battling Jack Murdock in the TV show, he was in the comic. Are you aware of the connection between the Ninja Turtles and Daredevil?
Oh no.
There's a very direct connection. Eastman and Laird, being fans of the comics that they were reading in 84 and earlier, 83, 82, 81, the Ninja Turtles are pulled from Frank Miller's Ronin. In fact, there's a cover of one of the issues that issue 1 of the Ninja Turtles is a send-up of. But in the Ninja Turtles origin, it's the same as the Daredevil origin. The chemical truck goes by, a little kid pushes old man out of the way, the canister falls and it hits Matt's eyes, but that canister also falls down into the sewer and mutates 4 little turtles. And beyond that, the Daredevil's mentor's name is Stick, the Ninja Turtles' mentor's name is Splinter. The Daredevil fights the Hand Ninjas, the Ninja Turtles fight the Foot Clan, and there's that whole ninja thing. It was a trend in the 80s that ninjas were big in comics, and so that's what Eastman and Laird were doing. It was a parody. It was a send-up of what was popular in comics that moment in 1983 and 84 when they wrote and drew that. And so there's a lot of Daredevil connections Frank Miller Daredevil connections in that book. And even issue 1, when the canister comes out of the truck, there's this little kid pushing a blind man out of the way of the truck, and it's like the nod there. Now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe. That's a different podcast.
Entirely. Overall, coming away from Daredevil after watching all 13 episodes, 2016 can't get here fast enough.
It cannot.
Why is it, like, I know they need time to work on the show, work on the, the second season. Now, some people have said that because Drew Goddard had left the show, the showrunner had changed, that the tone changed in the show. Did you notice a tonal shift after
episode 2? That was the last one.
Yeah.
And no, I didn't. And if the 2 guys who took over for him are in charge of season 2, which they are, I'm not worried at all because they did a spectacular job.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't even notice a tonal shift. I just, if they had softened it up a little bit more than what it was in the first 2 episodes, yeah, sure, I would have noticed it. But it almost seems like they went 100% the other way. They went to, harden it more than what it was. And I absolutely can't get enough of this. The other thing I want to bring up before we kind of rate the show and give final thoughts and all that good stuff is, because this is a show about a blind person, Netflix added an option called audio something.
A descriptive service.
Audio descriptive service. Now this is basically, I actually tried this on episode 2 with the fight, with the hallway fight. You still hear what they're saying. It isn't like total silence and a narrator. You still hear all the backgrounds. You still hear the fight noises. For blind people, you can sit there and listen to this narrator telling you the action that's going on. But for us that are sighted as well, and don't get me wrong, folks, I was classified legally blind as a kid. Without correction, I have 2200 vision in both eyes. With correction, I have 20/60 in my right and 2100 in my left. Anyway, I'm pretty. It's more far away stuff than it is up close. But usually when I'm sitting at the computer, my face is 5 inches or less away from the screen because I just can't see. The way I describe it to people is, at the end of my street here, there's a stop sign. I know the shape of a stop sign. I know the color of a stop sign. I know it says the word stop, but from my apartment window, I can't read STOP. I can't read it until I'm right up on top of it. So they add this service, and I think it's so great because so many people who are fully blind people have a way to watch television, or at least to watch this show.
Yeah, Daredevil's always had a big blind following. I think, I remember hearing a while ago that the comic is produced in a way for blind people, Braille with, I don't know, descriptions of what each panel looks like. But I think you had pointed out that audio descriptive service, and I went and watched episode 1 that way. And I think it's spectacular, and I really want to watch it and not look at the TV at all, like maybe be doing chores or something while that's playing and see how, or feel how immersive that is. But I was impressed with the service, and I recommend, just kind of as a sign of respect, that everybody out there try at least one episode of it that way. I intend my 3rd viewing to be audio descriptive service for the fun of it.
I'd probably just sit here and close my eyes and just listen. I wouldn't even do anything else, because this is not I know a lot of people will put TV on or radio on or whatever for background noise. This show is so not a background noise.
You can't do that.
Show. No, you just can't.
It's my second time through, and I'll pick up the laptop and I'll start browsing Facebook, and then like, no, I got to put that down. I'm missing stuff. I can't do it.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, come back with the GCRN review, which is where we give it a rating, and then we'll do final thoughts and exit stage left after this.
Now for a behind-the-scenes look at Geekcast Radio Network's newest show, Talking in Circles.
So, Chuck, Greg, what are you guys thinking for this week's show?
Well, Dan, how about we just talk about the things that we've read or watched this week?
We do reviews like that every week, Chuck. How about a game like Fact or Fiction or The Power of Names?
Those are great, and we're always coming up with new ideas for games. And how about some top fives? You know how I love my top fives.
What about tournament-style brackets, or sequel, reboot, and destroy, who will win in a fight, taking too far, crazy but true news, or...
Yes, it appears we have lots of things to work on.
Listen to Talking in Circles, taking timeless topics in new directions, every Tuesday on iTunes or GeekCastRadio.com, the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hey, Dan, who's the guy with the creepy voice?
I'm Colin Baker.
My name's Fraser Hines.
Hi, I'm Daphne Ashbrook.
This is Andrew Cartmel.
Hi, this is Colin Spall.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisher-Becker.
This is Ian McNeice.
Hi, this is Travis Ritchie.
You listen to this Mark Who 42s.
Listen to Mark Who 42's Universe.
If you're into Doctor Who, listen to Mark Who 42's Universe. We always have the latest Doctor Who news, reviews, and interviews. We are available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Geekcast Radio Network, and our home base, MarkWho42.net.
Mark Who 42, the meaning of life.
All right, folks, it is time to exit stage left and also talk about the GCRN review. We go on a 0 to 5 star scale for the GCRN Universal Rating System. I mean, it's 5 stars all the way. I mean, pretty much. There may be a couple of things that I didn't come away with this series thinking, oh my god, I can never watch this again because of that one moment that one thing happened, even though I can't tell you what that one thing is. Overall, any little nitpick is forgiven, honestly, because this series is so damn good.
This is, I would almost say this is Marvel's most perfect thing that they've done. I can't wait for season 2. As a fan of the character, I can't even articulate why Daredevil is my favorite superhero. This show does him complete justice. Can't wait for more. Can't wait to see some of the stories reimagined for television with Charlie Cox playing Daredevil. But yeah, an absolute 5-star perfection. I maybe want to give it a 4.5 so that I can allow season 2 to surpass it. But no, we'll go with a 5-star. As a fan of the book, this is everything you could want for in a switch and a change of media from comic to video. This is what it should be like. This is as good as it should be.
So Marvel.com did announce that Netflix ordered a second season for Daredevil. But they are going through yet another showrunning change.
A second one?
Yep. It says, on April 21st, 2015, Marvel and Netflix announced that the series had been renewed for a second season, set for a release in 2016, with Doug Petrie and Marco Ramirez replacing DeKnight as showrunners, as well as acting as executive producers. Both served as writers in the first season and worked closely with DeKnight and Goddard. So it's going under another showrunning change. As long as the show itself does, as long as the tone of the show doesn't change between what happened in episode 13 and what happens in episode 14 or season 2, episode 1, I don't care. As long as they're going to put the same consistency and effort into what's already happened, I'm fine.
The stumbling block that they're going to have to overcome is that from here on out, Daredevil starts to get starts to get silly. We've got some villains that are more flamboyant. We've got some situations that are more spectacular and out of the ordinary. And I, I don't know how I want them to handle that. Do I want them to handle it by changing them to make them more real, like they did with Leland Owlsley? Or are we going to take a deep breath, relax, and let them do something like their new interpretation of Stiltman? Or what is Bullseye going to look like? Is he going to wear his outfit, or is he going to have a tattoo of the bullseye on his forehead, or a brand like Colin Farrell did? We'll see. There's some challenges now. Did you notice in the back of the shop where Wilson Fisk has his suits made, you could see the gladiator, the buzzsaw guy with the whirlwind with the arms and the blades, and the Stiltman costume in the back? That was like, hey, good job, guys. Nice nod there. Thank you.
Yep. I am really surprised that they actually, I'm kind of surprised and not really surprised. The soundtrack for this is already out on iTunes. Which is interesting, because I wasn't even sure the show was going to get a soundtrack. But yeah, it's out there already. Like I said, Daredevil, I can't wait to see more. I know it's a product of our times as far as us paying attention to the writers and the producers and the executive producers and the people who are in charge of the show. But even 10, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we didn't care about, 30 years ago we didn't have the internet, but it's one of those things where it's because of the internet that matters, who's running the show.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, for me, nothing really I didn't notice a change in too much of the tone. I just saw the show evolving as it happened.
I think a lot of the groundwork had been laid for these guys who took over, but beside the point, I think I'm not worried yet.
Yeah. Absolutely love this show. I'm gonna have to watch that final. Actually, I'm gonna have to watch episode. Is it episode 8? Forget. Episode. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch episode 8 and episode 13 with that audio descriptive service on, because I want to see how they show the Shadows in the Glass episode with the audio descriptive service, because that's gonna be really cool to see that. So. All right, folks, as I've said before, and I know it's been a few months since Remote Control has been on doing episodes, but we are back. Next time around, we're going to be doing finishing finales. This is our way of wrapping up a season, kind of like, it isn't the season pass, but it's kind of weird. My whole thinking was, okay, so I'm creating this TV podcast. I want to take advantage of the fall TV season and the spring kind of finale thing to that fall TV season. So I'm going to create pilot premieres where we just talk about our initial thoughts on the very first episode of a show. And then when we get to finishing finales, we'll talk about if we kept up with the show or what we thought of the show after the fact. So we've got The Flash, Gotham, Red Band Society, and a couple of other ones. Not a lot of the shows that I started doing in pilot premieres for the first year of Remote Control, actually, a few of them got cut pretty fast. Stuff like Forever and a few other ones got cut fairly fast because they just weren't in my wheelhouse. I know I should have done this at the beginning of the show, but you're having a sale, aren't you?
I'm having a geek sale. June 13th, if you're anywhere near the middle of Michigan, you can drive over and see us at Big Kids Games on Plainfield from 10 o'clock in the morning to 7 p.m. And, hey, if you're nearby and you want to set up a booth to sell things, that's free, too. But you can find me at facebook.com/geekstuffgarage-sale. Send messages there, and I will get back to you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for joining us here on Remote Control. There are some ways to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com. Email us, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Please do this. Follow us on Twitter. At geekcastradio is the main network Twitter. Mine is TFG1Mike. Joe hates Twitter.
Yep.
Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/geekcastradio network. Call the voicemail line. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. 502-526-5821. There's a 5-minute time limit. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of Remote Control and wish you'll join us next time when we'll be kicking off the finishing finales episodes. For now, I am TFG1Mike with
Joe Reed.
Tune in next time when we will all be fighting over the remote control.
Thank you for tuning into Remote Control. There are several ways to get in contact with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com. You can email us feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can leave us feedback in iTunes. Follow us on Twitter @GeekCastRadio. You can become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. Call the voicemail line. Tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. 502-526-5821. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of Remote Control and wish that you'll tune in next time to hear what TV topic we'll be talking about. Get those remotes ready because we are all remote controlled.